Let's get it started. This is the GPL podcast, sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now, here's Jupe and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 181. 10 years going, Vigs. Going strong.
That's how we do it here. It's been fun. It's hard to believe how quickly that time passes.
Tell me about it. We're getting old, Vigs. Well, our last two shows, we've had first-time guests. You know, we had Pat Micheletti, we had Wally Shaver, and now we're bringing in a guy we've seen around the rink the last few years at Mariucci, Randy Johnson from the StarTrubune. Randy, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. This should be fun. I'm looking forward to talking a little hockey and picking your guys' brains too.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, I mean, we've seen quite a few people come and go at the U. I must say the most entertaining may have been Roman Augustovitz. But it was just, for us, it was just a miracle. We were waiting for his pants to fall down, and they just don't seem to fall down. It was just a miracle. And you giggle because you're like, yeah, that's Roman.
No comment.
So what's your background? How'd you get sent over and on the Gopher hockey duty a few years ago?
Well, I've been at the StarTrubune since 2000. Before that, I was at the Pioneer Press for 5 years, but from basically 2000 to the summer 2017, I was on the copy and layout desk working that. I was doing a lot of the hockey stuff. Basically, hockey and football were my main two things. Things opened up where I was able to get the Gophers football beat in the summer of 2017, and along with that went the hockey, and which I've thoroughly enjoyed. I've followed college hockey, since basically my college days, basically, and it turned out pretty good. And then in a year later, we started Puck Drop, our email newsletter and web. And that's basically, I'm the producer of that, which I pretty much do a little bit of everything on there: write, edit, coordinate, and all that. And so it's going pretty good. What's involved in that too is a lot of college hockey coverage. We found that that's one area where we were probably needed to punch it up a bit, and I think we've done a nice job doing that. We've not only hit the Gophers, but the other schools in the state quite a bit, and it had a good time. When you look at right now, you got 4 of the top 6 ranked teams in the country from Minnesota, so it's pretty good. And I'll throw a plug out for our email newsletter. It's StarTrubune.com/puckdrop sign up. So it's a free newsletter, comes into your email box. I'm going to have one tomorrow, basically once or twice a week, depending on the week, and then we'll wrap it up. State tournament time, we've done it maybe 3 or 4 times a week. So it's
right around noon, right?
Yeah, I try to shoot for it at noon. I mean, that was more based on downtown people in line to get their burrito, whatever, for lunch. They got their mobile device out. Well, not as many people downtown in line anymore. People at home. So it's a little more flexible. But like a couple weeks ago, we waited for some news to break, which did, and then went probably an hour or 2 later than usual. So it's pretty flexible there.
How has your adjustment been for COVID? I mean, we were talking before we went on the air here how you had so many interviews today, but you weren't probably driving all over town to get those interviews. You were probably on your laptop doing a Zoom meeting. So it's a different world.
Sure is. Yeah. It's I kind of miss being at the rink. Not very often now. Actually, I haven't been in Mariucci except for games so far this year. There's just no access right now. Now that'll change, I suppose. Maybe high schools, things like that. We'll do some things there. The funny thing, it was the whole when everything shut down last March. It was a weird situation for me because back in early January, I had shoulder surgery, so I was out for 6 weeks. Brian Deutsch, the SID of the Gophers, was quite happy that I wasn't there because he thought jinx early in the season.
And then I saw you in the club room one night.
Yeah.
Beer in one hand, sling in the other.
Yeah, well, basically, hey, I might know this year, or since he can't.
Hey, that's great if you ask me.
Anyway,
maybe it was your surgery that turned things around for the program. I think we should share that with Bob next time we see him.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but when I got back in mid-February, and then less than a month later, basically, boom, season shut down. So it's like I had kind of like been on a shelf and sequestered at home for a while there to begin the year, and then since then it's like, okay, getting to know your house a lot better.
Yeah, I finally spruced up my office behind me, just because I was getting sick of looking at what was there before too. But on to the team. Vigs, the last time we left, they was 6-0 heading into Michigan, and boy, they went and took care of Michigan, even though each team was missing quite a few star players.
Yeah, I think when we first looked at that weekend on the schedule, it was going to be a really important weekend for the Big Ten. You look at the talent on Minnesota and Michigan's rosters, it looks like it's the best in the league. And the way Michigan was playing to start the year, it's like, oh, this is going to be something. And then because USA Hockey bumped up their camp date with the quarantine starting earlier, all the players that we were expecting to play in that series all had to leave their teams and go to Ann Arbor. So they were just a couple minutes away quarantining, but they missed the series. And it was going to be curious what Minnesota was able to do, losing their top 3 defensemen who seem to be puck-moving defensemen. And that's been the key for them this year, is transitioning really quickly into their offensive game. And I was worried going in how it was going to look, and they played smart hockey. I know Garrett Raboyne talked with Jess Myers this week, and he said, a lot of people think we're this fancy high-scoring team. We're not. We're a forecheck, back check team that wins on a lot of effort and special teams. And I think we saw that in Michigan. And on top of that, goaltending. Jack LaFontaine went back to his first school, and he really stood on his head that second night.
He did, Randy. And you were with me when we were watching LaFontaine getting interviewed after that game. And yes. He was so emotional, and you don't see that a lot.
I was surprised, that
yes,
it's caught me off guard. I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, he's this moment is really him, and I imagine it's just the all he went through over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't pound Michigan the way he wanted it to. Ends up going up to Penticton and working his way back, and now working his way to where he's basically a top goalie in the number 1 team in the country. It's that being possibly his last appearance at Yost too, had to play into it quite a bit.
Yeah. At Vigs, he gave up 1 goal on the weekend.
Yeah, he played outstanding. He's had some easy weekends, I think, so far, mm-hmm. where he hasn't been tested a whole lot, maybe a couple of rushes here and there. But in that Michigan series, he was tested quite a bit, and he answered the bell. And anyone who's been around the team since he's been on the roster knows that he's a go-to guy. Mm-hmm. If you want to get the pulse of the team or something, he's a great guy to talk to. He's very articulate, very smart. He wants to be a freelance writer after school while he pursues his pro hockey career. And he's got a lot of the intangibles to do that.
Well, it was refreshing to see it. We all were kind of taken aback by it. But we've seen a few players come along the last few years. I think of Justin Kloos. He would go and swear at a post game because he really cared, and you could tell that LaFontaine really appreciates how he was taken in on this team, And, you know, he even put in his time, you know, or what Viggs, I think you've said a few times that he was helping, you know, the freshmen with all the gear and stuff last year. And then they're like, well, you don't need to do that. But he wanted to be part of the team. And the team really did accept him in, Viggs.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a guy who wants to pay his dues and earn respect however he can do it, whether it's staying late after practice when he first got to the team to give the shooters a look, working extra with the goalie coaches, helping out, you know, with the bags on the bus and picking up pucks. You know, he's a guy who wants to be a good teammate, and you can see it really matters to him. And he deflects a lot of his glory onto his teammates, always commenting how good they are at blocking shots, how they keep, you know, the puck at the other end of the ice, and it makes his job a lot easier. And this is a locker room that's got a lot of good things going for it right now. I don't know if that's something we've seen a whole lot in the past decade. You know, this isn't a team where it's 21 Ubers or whatever, but, you know, there's definitely been some separation at times over the last couple of years. And this team does seem pretty tight right now.
And Randy, as a reporter, Randy, you got to love LaFontaine because he gives good quotes.
Yeah, he's a go-to on that. It's I mean, early in the season, he's describing Ben Myers as a silverback, you know, just the way he's pushing up, doing push-ups and stuff in the off season and everything. So yeah, and you've really seen how, you know, Bob's talked a lot about how much he likes this team, going back to last year.
Yeah,
personnel of these players, and that's really coming through this year. As you know, last year I think we saw a little bit of the humor, a little bit of the goofiness he'll talk about. This year we're seeing parts of that still, but then these guys are serious about winning. You know, and it probably took a little bit of time for that to come out last year. You know, they took their lumps in that pretty tough non-conference schedule early on last year, like playing the Duluth and the North Dakotas. So it's, you know, they had to grow and they did, and then just with the off season, what they were able to accomplish together, and just, you know, the natural improvement after from freshman to sophomore and sophomore to junior. You know, yeah, you're seeing how serious this team is about winning, which it's something that's, you know, it's noticeable, I guess I'd say.
And Viggs, the winning, now 8-0, leading the Big Ten, has vaulted them up to the #1 spot in the country. It's been a while since they've been there. I know you always like to say, hey, whoa, hold on, we still got a lot of season left. But after the kind of years we've had, it's kind of nice to have Minnesota up on top right now.
It is nice for this fan base to see.
Yes.
I mean, they have gone through a lot the last couple of years with the coaching transition, seeing all the distractions in the team. You know, Minnesota was really hit by the early departure syndrome that hit college hockey. And that was something that no one was really prepared for who had a team like Minnesota. And it took a while to figure out how to handle that. And I just felt like Lucia wanted to finish his coaching tenure at the U on a high note and just try to make it happen. And it just wasn't. You know, the roster makeup was never quite enough to get over the hump. And it's kind of funny, you know, this team, some of these defensemen, they were recruited by Scott Bell and Don Lucia, Mike Genzel, Grant Patolny. Some of those coaches have this roster that's been put together that is the way to win in college hockey. You bring in experienced players who put in their time in junior hockey. You blend them with some late ads like a Ben Myers, transfer goalie, and Jack LaFontaine, who's an older kid now, relatively. And you have a recipe for success. And they play great hockey. It's fun to watch. They don't make a lot of mistakes, and they still create some offense, and their special teams are great.
Oh, one thing that Randy and I kind of touched on before you jumped on, Viggs, is that it's going to be an interesting process to decide the teams this year for the NCAA tournament. We've got some folks over in the NCHC who think we should do it one way and another. Randy, what are your initial thoughts on all that's going on right now?
Well, you know, Josh Fenton came out in the Grand Forks Herald, you know, and he's very good commissioner in that conference, basically saying he'd like to see the NCAA use a historical look, you know, go back to say when the NCHC and the Big came into being in 2013-14, and go from there and do an average of number of bids. That favors Hockey East with they had an average 4 year. You round up the NCHA, it's 4 year. The Big Ten, you round down, it's like just above 2. WCHA is just above 2. So there are a couple conferences that now are sure to say no, we don't want it that way. When you look, obviously NCHC has been the power. They've won the last 4 championships. But the Big Ten, a couple of years ago, 2018, they put 3 teams in the Frozen Four. So there's something to be said about having more than 2 bids for that conference for sure. And you look at the WCHA this year, they've got some contenders to put more than 2 into the tournament. It's going to be interesting. I think you look at with the ECAC only having 4 teams this year. Maybe they don't get bids. Maybe it's a situation where you give Bill Robertson had thrown this out. Give 2 bids per conference for most conferences, and then add in the at-large, but it's going to be more subjective this year. You're gonna have some, since the pairwise won't work because you're not teams playing outside of conference to get the comparisons. It's going to be the eye test is going to hold a lot of weight this year, I would think.
And V's, we have heard nothing from the NCAA. We don't even know if they're going to even put on a tournament.
Right. They've been very cautious on what the future looks like for NCAA hockey. I don't think they've even really confirmed that the Frozen Four site is going to be, I think it's Pittsburgh this year. They haven't even confirmed that that's for sure where they're going to be. I know for the Hobie Baker, when we talked to Wally Shaver, he brought that up, that's still kind of unconfirmed, which is kind of awkward being that it's almost January and the Frozen Four comes around pretty quick after that. So we'll see. I can't see that ECAC making too much hay about getting a lot of their teams involved in the NCAA tournament if it happens. I think Hockey East, it's going to be real challenging for them. They've had so many cancellations and they've had so many missteps on getting their teams to play games so you can even get a book of record on them, or a book of business, as Mike Hastings likes to talk about. The NCHC, they're beating themselves up. So it's really hard to tell, is that 4th or 5th team going to truly be deserving? Because we haven't seen that team play outside the conference. And yes, I totally understand what Josh Fenton's doing. It's his job to hype up that league, and he's done a great job promoting that league as the top league in college hockey. And this team has proven it with their elite teams in the Frozen Four winning so many titles. But we just don't know the depth of the league. We always know that they have at least 3 really good teams, but the bottom 3 teams in that league just haven't been very good lately. So it is going to be curious to see. I'm still up in the air on how good the Big Ten is. We've seen Minnesota be so dominant, and Michigan was good early, but then they had some struggles. Who are the other teams in the Big Ten that we think are the best teams for an NCAA tournament?
Well, Wisconsin's the closest right now. Wisconsin's playing better than we probably thought they were.
Record-wise, they've been playing better, but I haven't seen it on the ice where I know how good they can be. Caulfield's been very good in the World Junior for the USA team. He's looked good for Wisconsin, but as last year showed us, they struggled at times too. They had a lot of talent, but whether or not they can put it together over a season, we'll see. It's only a snapshot this first half of the season. There's so much to be determined in the second half.
And Randy, it's just, like Vigo said, if you look at Hockey East, they've had a lot of cancellations. NCHC is going to have a cancellation this weekend. It's, the Big Ten, Wisconsin's had some cancellations. It's just a matter of time before, a team Minnesota plays or Minnesota themselves. There's going to be cancellations. Yeah. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, we're not going to get a nice clean slate. I mean, you look that the Gophers got through the first portion unscathed, and you're hesitant to pat themselves in the back situation because you never know what's coming around the corner. You look at the women's side of the WCHA, how that's been really decimated.
Oh boy,
comparatively, you just don't know what's going to happen each week.
It's a mess.
We do know that the Big Ten has planned in that week at the end of the season for makeups. And I think by them scheduling this back to every weekend sort of format for their teams, they do have some flexibility to fit in extra games here and there if they need to because of cancellations. So I'm thinking the Big Ten is going to be able to figure this out and have a second half where we can at least have some hockey and get through it. But, if it gets into a team and gets rampant, hockey's a game where you can't be missing too many players. And, the Gophers have already had some injury issues here, and they've had players try to play through it. Sounds like they get McManus back this week, but Weber is going to be gone for the year with that back surgery that he had. So, there's not a lot of wiggle room there on a roster.
Well, let's get into that Arizona State series here in a little bit, but first we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers, this is Jerry Peters from First Class Mortgage. Interest rates are near all-time lows and property values are on the rise. Lower your interest rate and remove monthly PMI at the same time to save thousands of dollars. Or use the equity in your home for debt consolidation and home improvement. The housing market is still hot, so make sure you're prepared by getting a pre-approval letter from me before you start shopping. Mention you heard about me on the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. Call me today at 612-940-3291 or visit firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. My NMLS number is 480200. First Class Mortgages is 322842. This is not an offer to lock into an interest rate agreement under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
And of course, we always like to thank Jerry for sponsoring the GPL podcast. He's signed up for the rest of this season. So we look forward to hearing more from Jerry and use his services. He said quite a few of you have already signed up for, either refinancing or getting a new house. So
good rates out there right now.
Well,
it's a good economy to refinance a house if you can.
It's always good rates. It seems like as we get older, the rates just keep going better and better, down and down and down. I mean, you ask our parents, oh boy.
It's a little different.
In the 80s, like, I think I got down to like 9%. And before that, it was like 18. I'm like, holy cow. So take advantage of Jerry there. Viggs, have you seen any good questions in the YouTube chat?
There's a lot of questions about whether or not the Gophers are going to add anybody to their roster. Jess Myers has been wetting the palate of everybody over this break, hinting at someone who would commit. I can share that I know Matthew Nyes was interested in maybe joining the U for the second half. He's a player who's already committed. He's a draft eligible player. He's playing for Tri-City in the USHL. The USHL has been a tough league to develop in this year with so many cancellations in that league of games. I think it's difficult for players to kind of find their game. He's struggled a little bit. He's only got a couple points so far in the handful of games that he's been able to play. So I think he's looking at, what do I need to do to get back? Didn't really work out as a good fit for him to be at the U for a mid-year player edition. And then there was thoughts of maybe, another uncommitted player coming into the program early who is also a USHL guy. I think that's out the window too. There's just too much going on there to make that move. Sounds like a transfer is the one coming in. I know he's left his other program and is already in the portal. So those of you on GPL who've seen that thread on players in the portal, this player's in there. We'll see if it comes to fruition.
And V's, it's not going to be a superstar. It's probably going to be an added person on the bench. That's probably dressing if there's problem. I mean, is that realistic right now? It's not somebody coming in to rescue a season.
It's not a season rescuer. It's a depth player who wants to be at Minnesota.
Yep.
And it's a player who could fill in and give you a solid player who's going to be able to compete hard and be difficult to play against. When Garrett Boyne talks about this team being a forecheck, back check type team, this is a player that would be that kind of guy. He would add to that. He's not going to be a high scoring player. Minnesota doesn't really need high scoring players. They need their high scoring players to get going. And so every
True.
time you hear Coach Motzko talk, he's like, we got to get Walker and McLaughlin going.
Yep.
We're halfway through.
Walker's gotten a little bit going.
He's got a little bit
McLaughlin-
going on the special teams here and there,
Yeah.
but I'm still looking for more from him 5-on-5. He's just got so much acceleration and pace. When he's on his game, he is picking pockets and he is putting pressure all over the ice.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's at times where he gets into a little bit of a funk, and having McManus on his line to kind of ease that funk and pressure is a really good thing. And I'm interested to see how that line plays against ASU, because it's going to be a more wide open game. You know, the Sun Devils like to put Sun on the offense and not so much on the defense, and it could be a fun weekend to watch.
Well, it is our favorite time of year because the World Juniors are now playing. Have you guys been watching it? Randy, you been catching any of those games?
Yeah, I haven't watched every game, but I've seen all the U.S. games, and the Russia game was a little tough to start.
Yeah.
They've rebounded. Obviously, can't take a whole lot from the Austria game, but the Czech game, quite impressive. I thought the way they solved that shutdown Czech approach, and then just took over the game in the second period and just rolled.
And Vigs, I don't know if you remember going back. You probably do, but when it was in the 90s and we'd have these players leave for the World Juniors, they would come back. They'd be very tired, but they would come back early because back then the U.S. did nothing. They weren't contenders at all.
Yeah, it's a little different how much USA Hockey has invested in developing the under 20 player, and how much better American hockey is now for that age group than it used to be. I felt like American hockey, you'd have a handful of guys who were Minnesota high school kids, Michigan high school kids, Massachusetts high school kids who could maybe turn into a player, but it usually took a while. They weren't really ready on the world stage at 18, 19, 20 years old to compete against the world's best. That's changed, and Minnesota's now, or USA's medal favorite all the time, and Minnesota has competition for roster spots on the US team because there's so many more hockey players now playing, and the USHL and the NHL have grown so much that these players have opportunities to develop at that age level.
Well, I'd kind of jump on that. We've got Tim Hapke asking on Twitter, have you guys heard the protocols will be for players returning from the World Juniors? Do they have to be done for 2 weeks, 10 days? Do either of you know, Vigs?
I reached out to our friend over at Wisconsin Land, Todd Molesky, and he heard from Granado that players will expected to come back on Wednesday. They will do a test on Thursday and then a test on Friday. And if they clear those tests, they should be ready for that next weekend. So while the Big Ten protocol, I think, is a little bit more extended because they've been in this USA Hockey testing protocol, they're going to maybe bend the rules. I'm interested to talk to Coach Motzko tomorrow and see if that's what he's expecting the protocol to be. But Todd's going to be writing about that tomorrow in the paper for the Madison.com.
It won't be based on school. It'll be based on league. Because, you think about that. All of a sudden you come back next week and Cole Caulfield is back, and then all of a sudden our guys aren't back.
I would think that it would be the same protocol for all teams in the Big Ten. I think that's one of the reasons why ASU is a team that's in the non-conference piece of this schedule, is because they're a team that will follow the protocols. So I think we can expect the players to be back if they test negative those couple days, but we'll see.
Boy, it's a fun time of the year, though.
It's fun.
This tournament has become just gigantic. Really, in the last 10 years, it's just ramped up because it's on TV a lot more now than it was back in the day. But it's really ramped up, and it also helps that Team USA has been competitive too.
Yeah, I think it's too bad that Austria and Germany and Switzerland don't have great teams this year. So we're seeing a lot of blowouts in the games, and that's just not good for anybody. If anyone's unfamiliar with the World Junior Tournament, the way teams get promoted and relegated is, the last place finishers for 1 year go down to the next pool, and the top teams from the pool below come up into the championship pool. And, if you have a great player for one of those teams, like a Stutzel or Drysdale, your team can go up, but if they go to the NHL and they don't keep playing, or, the group below them isn't very good, that country can get blown out the next year and get relegated. So it's a tricky thing. When we get to the knockouts, I think it'll be more exciting and more competitive and a lot more fun to watch. And that's coming up pretty soon here. I think we've got our last games of the pool play tomorrow, and then they'll get in the medal round play. And it's going to be fun to watch. I think the U.S. with their goaltending, if they can get that figured out, it'll be good TV.
Yeah. Well, let's move, excuse me, back. I've got Hockey Fan 2020 asking yesterday. We'll throw this towards you, Randy. Do we have any word on attendance at the games this year, or is the U going to keep it shut down the entire year?
Oh, I think that's really dependent on Governor Walz.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be shut down until the state lifts it. Right now, earlier, like this summer, they were allowing stuff Canterbury and the Saint Stadium, but everything's locked down so tight that you're not anything indoor. I mean, you look at the high schools now, players are going to have to be wearing masks playing hockey. That's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah. Viggs, I noticed you kind of smiled about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've been coaching youth hockey all year, and I have to wear a mask because I'm coaching, and I've had my kids wearing masks. And, I've gone for my runs wearing masks because the trails can be kind of crowded sometimes. And I do think some of it's overblown. If you're having trouble breathing through a mask, to me, I think, there could be some asthma things that you should go see your doctor about. It's a little bit annoying because of the humidity and how wet masks can get. But if you're wearing that, I think it's a little bit of an overblown thing. Some of the things we've been seeing about hockey rinks and transmission and some of the cases that have come out, it's pretty compelling stuff. And we're so close to having vaccines and, the hospital capacity to take care of everyone. Just be patient and please, please cooperate, people. I want to be back in the rink so bad, and I want to see the players playing these games. And, we just have to, we're getting close. To see the case numbers come down like they have over the holidays in Minnesota has been nice to see. And the pause is lifting here for youth sports, and the kids will be on the ice again. It'll be nice to see them get back out there.
I actually, now that it's cold out, when you're inside Target or something and all of a sudden you come outside and you got your mask on, it's not so bad because you're not as cold.
Well, we were at the Oval just yesterday during the snowstorm skating around.
Oh, geez.
And, it was nice to have the mask on during the snowstorm. We just needed the goggles, and we'd be able to skate all night.
Oh, I was outside for that Jupiter Saturn thing, and that was a cold night. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I have this thing on because I need the mask because I was freezing cold. I was so cold. Another question, Hockey Fan 2020. Well, he's pretty positive. He thinks he's looking at the team going 15-5. I'm not sure, Randy, this team's ready to go 15-5. They're going to have some definite bumps in the road, but I do see it hard for other teams to maybe catch up to Minnesota since they've had such a good start.
Yeah, they've built a nice lead. It's one bad weekend and it can go away, but they've built a good lead. You're going to see adversity here. They haven't trailed. They haven't allowed a power play goal.
Yeah.
Those things, they'll face something. Sooner or later. They'll be behind in the game. I don't think it would be time to panic necessarily if they lose a game or two. No, it's hockey. This isn't. I don't think this is that main team with Paul Kariya that what was their record, 2 or 3 losses all year. I forget the exact number, but yeah, they'll face adversity, and I think that could be a good thing too.
Well, I don't think we'll see LaFontaine with a 9.65 all season.
No.
I mean, he's played really outstanding, and he's a good blend of being technical and being athletic. But even those top technical goalies will have an off night here and there, and we might see that at some point. But he's been very steady.
But also think of this, Viggs, the team defense in front of him has been much better. I mean, you've been talking about all this season about these defensemen. They're more patient. They make the smart play out of the zone when they need to. There's not a lot of those, coming into the offensive zone, blue line giveaways that we know you really hate, Viggs. I mean, so the team defense is doing much better than previous years.
Yeah, I think Rabs hit it on the head when he said they're playing a 160-foot game because they don't have to worry about that last 40 feet because their defensemen are so quick on puck retrievals and they're so adept at checking their shoulder, knowing where the pressure is and skating away from it. So often in the last couple of years, we've seen Gopher defensemen do the shoulder check, but it's almost like they were just doing that to show that they could do it rather than learn from it. Really great players, when they look over and they see that snapshot of the ice, they don't have to think about it very much. They just get to the puck and they know what they saw and they know where to go and they know their first option and they're able to get the puck moving the other direction. And that's been so impressive to see this year is how smoothly they get out. And I think also we've seen the centers be connected with the D, and that helps because if you can start your offensive breakout with 3 players below the dots, all in sync and in the right spacing, it makes it so much easier for everybody else. And to see them be able to do that game in and game out has been impressive. The times they've gotten in trouble, it's maybe being too quick to get the puck into the scoring areas in the offensive zone, and that gets the puck going the other way, and then they have to play defense. But we haven't seen the issues at the offensive blue line where they turn the puck over and it goes the other way, or their own blue line, failing to get out.
And at the opposite end, Randy, their forecheck has been much improved this year. They're doing it smarter, or they're even putting the puck in better areas where they know they can get to it.
Yeah, it's just all around. They've had the puck so much this year.
Yes.
Look at the face-offs, how much they've improved in that area, and that it just flows throughout the game. They're the only series that they had a little trouble that was Michigan State because Michigan State's really good on that. But they figured out a way to negate that and basically stuck right with them after a little struggles. But the entire package has been fun to watch this year. I mean, it just seems they're like Vig was saying, they're reacting, then they're not having to think about what their next step is.
And they're anticipating on that forecheck. They're on the puck before the puck is moving to that space because they understand the forechecks and the aggressiveness needed. I think so many times in Bob's first year, there'd be 2 players on the puck, which kills your forecheck because now you've got 2 players out of the play and you've got 4 or 5 coming at your remaining 3. You don't see that anymore. The first guy knows that he's the first guy and he's forechecker F1 and he's there. F2 knows where to go. F3's there. And the D know how to pinch and the forwards know how to cover. It's fun to watch because we haven't seen it for a while. And they've got it going right now.
And now we've got Arizona State coming into town. The Arizona playing every game on the road this year just to help out the Big Ten. I know, Viggs, you kind of joked earlier that if we'll just slate them into last place this year because, if we were to put them in there, they're going to end up last place. But I don't think they'd be in last place right now, Viggs. They're playing pretty well.
They've played pretty well. They've caught some teams like Wisconsin when they had their COVID issues and had the short lineup. But I think one of the things that can keep ASU in games over a season is they can score goals. They've got a lot of veteran players who have either transferred in or committed late, who are developed players. That allows ASU to compete right now. And I think that's the big worry for the Gophers right now is because they are still missing their 3 defensemen who are going to be at the World Juniors, not back for the series. That concerns you. If we saw last year in the ASU Minnesota series where there are a lot of penalties, a lot of special teams time, that could be a challenge this series. So it'll be interesting to see what Minnesota is able to do. If they play the game that they played in the first half where they don't turn the puck over and they don't take bad penalties, it should be an easy weekend for them, but it's college hockey and these are young kids. So you never know. And that's why the game's so fun.
And Randy, Arizona State does not want to get into a special teams game with Minnesota. I mean, we've seen the power play doing pretty well. The penalty kill is even, obviously they haven't given up a goal yet, but they're bound to, but this is not somewhere Arizona State wants to go into.
Yeah. I was on the Zoom call yesterday with Greg Powers, their coach, and he basically said exactly what you said. It's like just saying Gophers special teams have just been out of this world, and that's something that they don't want to have to face those situations as much. The thing this weekend is they're hopeful, not certain that they'll get Johnny Walker back. Basically, their leading scorer. Power said he'll be back for sure for the Notre Dame series the following week, but there's a chance he's back for this one. So that would be a big boost to that lineup. They've cobbled together with some different folks, but I'm sure they want to have Walker in there if they can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they were missing him last year in the series against Minnesota, and there was a lot of hype about ASU, being a tournament team coming to Mariucci, and it just wasn't an impressive weekend. I think a lot of Minnesota fans were saying, I'll be happy if Minnesota and Arizona State don't play again because the games got chippy and kind of out of hand. And I think part of that was Johnny Walker was missing for that weekend. With him back in, you'd think Arizona State could be a different team. And Sean Doogie, who's had a lot of good weekends against Minnesota over his career, is in there. I
forgot about him.
Is on their roster. So he'll be a fun player to see play against Minnesota because I'm sure he'll be excited for the weekend.
They have a local kid, Jax Murray, who's played pretty well for him too. Elk River kid. He's got, I believe it's 5 goals and 3 assists on the year. So he was looking. I talked to him earlier. He's looking forward to get back here, even though he won't be able to see his family as much as he'd like. But it's the whole COVID issue.
Okay, so from the fans' perspective here, Viggs, has Arizona gotten any cleaner in their play? Because, there were the couple times they played, you got a little bad last year, but, even before that, we had some guys sticking out some knees and things like that, and it has not been very clean from the Arizona State side.
No, and they've taken some bad penalties this year, too.
Okay,
so
yeah.
It's been something, I'm not going to say it's a character problem with the program or anything like that, but sometimes when you got guys who've been passed over.
You mean like North Dakota?
Yeah. Sometimes when you've got guys who've been passed over for a while, there's some reasons for that where they're going to mete out some punishment when they get frustrated. We'll see what happens. If the game's close, I don't think we'll see that kind of stuff. If it gets out of hand, maybe we will. They're a program that wants to make their mark and show that they belong and can compete in this kind of game. So,
and compete in this conference.
And compete in this conference because this is a team that fits financial wise. I know Pat Nicoletti, when we had him on, didn't like the fit geographically or hockey historic, reasons, but in terms of money and the kind of institution ASU is, they're a fit as an 8th team for the Big Ten. They've got plenty of money, plenty of facilities. Heck, they're on a 40-day road trip here for the hockey program, all while doing COVID testing. They want to be in the Big Ten. They're building that facility that's going to be ready in 2 years. They want to be at this level.
And Randy, the Strib wants to send you down to Arizona State at some point. They
I would hope so.
They must.
Actually, when Mike Russo was working for us, he did a big. It was probably involved when the Wild was down playing the Coyotes, but he did a big takeout piece on the Sun Devils as they were turning. Mm-hmm. But yeah, hey, I'm up for that trip.
We said we do our GPL podcast from.
Yeah, we're gonna do it from Jeremy's house.
ASU, yeah.
We'll do it from Jeremy's house, maybe Bacardio's house, one of the two. A couple former rubes that Viggs and I played with hockey with. Now living down in the Phoenix area, bunch of jerks. Jeez.
I've got a hockey rink across the street from my house, though. I love it here.
That is one thing I think that our boy Jeremy doesn't like.
There you go.
Finding ice down in Arizona is not easy, and he should just hang up his skates because he sucks anyway. But I'm taking personal shots. I shouldn't do that. Well, let's get your predictions on the weekend here, guys. Randy, we got Arizona State. They're not a bad team. Minnesota's got some defensemen gone. Everyone's had quite a bit of time off here. How do you predict this?
Put me on the spot here. I mean, that's
duh.
too much on a prediction. I'll go. I'll go. The train keeps running here. I'll go 4-1, 3-2. Gophers.
Well, he's giving scores even. We don't usually do that, Randy.
Oh well, hey. I'm. This is not for gambling purposes. Let's put it that way.
All right, Viggs.
Gambling's illegal at Bushwood, and I always.
Oh boy.
It's not smart to gamble on college kids. They're so unpredictable. So I do think the train keeps rolling as well. I thought maybe Michigan would steal some points from Gophers. I thought Michigan State might be able to steal some points. Ohio State, I've been kind of hedging my bets a little bit here and there, but I was impressed with the way Minnesota played against Michigan without their top 3 defensemen.
You did call that sweep against Michigan, though.
I did. I
did.
had to do it because Michigan was missing so many players as well. But I think against ASU, Minnesota is going to be too much on the big ice. I think last year when ASU played, it just wasn't a fair fight. And Minnesota looked head and shoulders above the Sun Devils. I think we might see something like that again this weekend. The key thing is the layoff. How do players come off of it? It can be kind of tricky because I know Minnesota took a bunch of days off going into the Christmas holiday because that's when they're going to do their break. They've tried to ramp up practices. I think leading up to this weekend, McManus has been playing without a cross on his jersey. So
McManus is back.
He's
back.
He's going to be in the availability tomorrow. So that's probably a good sign of his health. I think he's a key player to get McLaughlin and Walker going. He just adds a little something to that drink and can stir it. So I think we'll see. We'll probably see one of these games get out of hand. I could see like a 5 or 6-1 type game. I think we'll get one game that could be, 3-1, 2-0, something like that. I think we probably would see that the second night.
Yeah.
I think that first night Minnesota might come out buzzing and could get out of hand, but that second night, it's hard to sweep in college hockey because the other team gets their pride tarnished and they want to get back and they play a little bit harder for some reason.
Well, of course, I'm going with sweep. It's going to be a sweep. Of course, I'm going to pick that. But I lost my train of thought there. But I'll just go in with sweep.
But I do think, Minnesota with their penalty kill, I think I've tweeted about this, written about it a little bit. The way they're rolling their top 3 pairs of forwards, I think is so key to that unit. They started with Myers and Nelson a lot of the times. Those are 2 guys who can win faceoffs. They come back with McLaughlin and Walker, who have so much speed. And especially if you get them out there against a tired top power play unit, they can just put the pressure on. And I think that's when Walker and McLaughlin play their best, is when they can pressure, and they've done such a good job of it.
Well, I remember I was going to get my Jess Myers question in. Is LaFontaine ever going to hit the bench?
No need now. Not when you're back to 2 games a weekend. That was kind of the opening. I think the only way you do it now is if he has a game where he starts off poorly in the first period and you want to get Mo in there and see what he can do. But I mean, the way all the chips have been pushed at the table, LaFontaine looks like the guy, and this is his net to lose.
I just want to cause a controversy. I just want to get people going.
I'm excited to see what Jess's question is for Bob that gets him going tomorrow. It's probably going to be about this transfer coming in. He's probably going to say the wrong thing.
Oh, boy.
And it's going to be awkward and fun on the Zoom.
It will be. Hey, Randy, so you got another email coming out tomorrow?
Yeah, I've got a puck drop newsletter coming out tomorrow. I still got some work to do on it tonight and in the morning. It's got some good stuff in there. There's going to be some. I wrote on Arizona State. I column on discussing the NCAA tournament selection. What on there and or not going on, and how lines are being drawn a little bit. And we'll have some wild stuff. It's a good amount of stuff in there. It's
and you got to subscribe to get it in your inbox.
Yes.
Again, it's StarTrubune.com/puck drop sign up, all one word, and it's free. What happens is the number of our free articles you get per month, that'll count however many you read off this. Count toward that. We'd love for you people to subscribe. I mean, that's
of course.
we're doing this is we're a business. We're trying to get people to buy our product.
I'm
I
looking
get my
at the live.
subscription. I enjoy what you guys put together, and
Thank you.
I appreciate the extra hockey coverage.
Well, I'm seeing it. Sean Sullivan, love the puck drop newsletter. Jason Enberg, me too. I love reading puck drop emails. So looks like
good
we got
value.
guys who already subscribe. I know I
Thanks
get it all the time as well. So, well, thanks for joining us, Randy. It's having you on the podcast for the first time.
Yeah, this is good. It's good to talk hockey. I'm learning stuff from you guys, and it's there's a lot of it's nice to have a team that's doing this well to drum up a lot of interest. That's for sure.
Veens, are you working on anything yourself? Or
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. There's some things
it wasn't holiday break, so
yeah, there's some things in the toolbox that we're working on right now, but nothing quite yet.
Okay.
We'll have some stuff for GPLers, and we'll see what happens here the rest of the way. If the Gophers keep winning, there could be some other opportunities to publish some stories I've been working on. So stay tuned.
All right then. Well, that's going to do it for this week's GPL podcast. I want to thank Randy for coming on with us. And next week, we'll be recapping the ASU series and previewing the series with Bucky Badger. Oh boy, Bucky Badger. For those of you listening live, stay tuned for a little bit overtime. For the rest of you, we'll be back next Wednesday. Thanks for listening.